Welcome back to the channel. So today I want to talk about what I wish pharmacy school taught me. So for those of you who don't know, I graduated from pharmacy school back in 2013, which is 10 years ago. And since then, I've basically paid off $250,000 of student debt and acquired 90 units of real estate. So looking back 10, 12 years ago, this is what I wish that pharmacy school taught me. And keep in mind, this is a doctorate level degree. All pharmacists have a doctorate level degree, so technically we're all doctors. We typically don't assess or call ourselves doctors because most will say you're not a real doctor. But just so you know, it's a doctorate level degree. So for context, most people that graduate pharmacy school have around $200 to $250,000 of student debt, and they come out making at least $100 to $120,000, depending on your state, right? So I think the national average across the whole U.S. is probably around 100 to 120,000. In California, since it's a little bit more expensive to live here compared to other states, probably the average starting pay is around maybe 130 to $140,000. So think about this. You graduate pharmacy school, you have $250,000 of student debt, and you're making $130,000, and you know absolutely nothing about how to manage your money. So the first thing I wish pharmacy school taught me was how to manage my money, right? So in pharmacy school, you go through all these pharmacology courses, pathophysiology courses, microbiology, biochemistry, learning about drugs, their mechanism of action, how to treat disease states and how these drugs work, but they never taught us how to manage our money. And for those of you who don't know, money is probably the number one cause of divorce in the US, the number one cause of stressors in life. And if you're not doing well financially, you're not doing well, physically, spiritually, and mentally, right? So it's all kind of connected. So I wish they taught me how to manage my money. I never once received a lecture about how to manage my money. Like I said, it's very intimidating, right? You're coming out, you're making good money, $130,000, $140,000, taking home $5,000 to $6,000 a month. But you have $250,000 of student debt, which monthly payment might be around $2,000 or $3,000 a month. So half your income is already allocated towards student debt. And if you need a place to rent, especially in California, it's another $2,000, and maybe you're stuck left with another $1,000 to $2,000 left, right? And that's not really much in the grand scheme of things. So I really wish they taught me how to manage my money, like what's a 401k, right? Like I didn't really know what a 401k was. It really took me kind of self-educating myself. Fortunately, my parents knew what a 401k was. They invested it themselves, so they can teach me. And all I knew was you should just put money into the 401k so that you can save for retirement, right? So I just kind of automate it, right? Every paycheck, it would allocate whatever 10, 15, 20% automatically to my 401k, and whatever money was left over, that's what I would use to spend or save, right? In my case, I was a big saver, so I would save it. But a lot of people in pharmacy school, there's a lot of pharmacists, they live very bougie lifestyles, very fancy, very extravagant, spend a lot of money, right? So there's a lot of pharmacists out there, unfortunately. They make good money, but they spend it all, right? Nice vacations, nice new cars, nice clothes, brand name everything, right? That's very common, especially in Los Angeles, right? It's very materialistic, superficial world now, unfortunately, and pharmacists, we fall trapped to that. So I wish they taught me how to manage my money, right? Like what's a 401k, what's a IRA, like how do I automate my savings, what's the power of paying off my student loans earlier, like how much money should I save every month, how much money should I invest every month, how much should my rent be relative to my income, like all that stuff, right? Like it just would have been nice to been taught that, um, or something like that. That's why I'm so passionate about teaching personal finance and real estate, because it's something I wish I was taught. And don't get me wrong, a lot of pharmacists, we're really intelligent people, right? Like I said, we have a doctorate level degrees, even like physicians or MDs, they're highly educated in medicine, but they're not really trained how to manage their finances, right? There's some physicians I know, they make 400, $500,000 a year, but they spend it all. So they save $0 and they're living paycheck to paycheck, right? Believe it or not, despite taking home like, $30,000, $40,000 a month, right? So, I really wish they taught me the importance of managing my money, the importance of, um, why investing early is important. So that's something that I wish that I was really taught more. And people are surprised, right? Like you said, like for me, I came out with $250,000 of student debt. I was making $120,000, and I just said, you know what? I need to learn how to manage this money. I need to teach myself, right? So fortunately for me, pharmacy school did teach me to be a lifelong learner. So I was always striving to improve myself, right? In this day and age, with YouTube, social media, podcasts, books, there's so much access to resources that you can always learn, right? It doesn't matter if you're willing to put in that time to constantly learn, right? So we're trained to be lifelong learners. So I apply that a lot to personal finance and managing my money, and I'm constantly learning. The second thing that I wish the pharmacy school taught me was how to at least buy real estate, right? Like when you graduate from pharmacy school, typically you're gonna come an upper middle class for the most part, right? Making six figures. You'll live a good life. You can go on vacations, you can, afford a nicer car, all that stuff, right? So it's great. But the thing that I wish they taught us is just how to save up for that down payment. Like there's a lot of pharmacists that I know. I've been out of school for 10 years. There's a lot of pharmacists that have been out of school for 10 years and they still don't even have any savings, and they have no way that they can afford a down payment on a house, right? It comes down to managing your money. They didn't create a plan on how to save. And if you don't create a plan on how to save, you're going to spend all that money. You spend all that money, you're not going to have any savings. And if you have no savings, how are you going to make a down payment on a house, right? Like in California, the average house is $1 million. If you down, let's just say 5%, you have to be able to afford at least 50K. And a lot of farmers don't have that, right? And keep in mind, a lot of my classmates, 10 years later, still own no house. They're just paying rent, have no savings whatsoever, right? Versus me, I create a plan 10 years, or, I was naturally a saver. I created a savings plan 10 years ago and I paid off my student loans in 4 years and I bought 90 units of real estate. Versus I have classmates who still have their student loans, they own no real estate, and they have no savings. They just spent it all on nice vacations, on a lot of material goods that maybe doesn't add value to them anymore. So I really wish they taught me the importance of buying real estate, right? Like there's for you to live in, there's some tax benefits to that. If it's rental properties, you can get cash flow, you can get appreciation. When the value goes up, it's really prevalent in California. You get depreciation, which is the tax write-offs, and you get principal pay down, right? They're paying down your loan for you, and the loan gets eroded by inflation. So I just really wish that they just taught me like the importance of buying real estate. I get it. Most people may not get into investment or rental properties, is not for everyone, but every pharmacist for the most part wants to buy a house for them to live in, right? So I wish they at least taught us the basics of like what it's like to like what you need to do to like improve your credit score, to make yourself more competitive, to get a primary residence. Like how much money do you need saved up and to be down? Because it's nice to have a number so you have a goal to work towards, right? If I like for me, I knew I needed to save $100,000 to down 10% on $1 million house. So I had a goal, I had a plan, right? I was gonna save whatever $4,000 a month. So you could do the math and know how to get there. So I just really wish they taught me the importance of owning real estate and how to create a plan to buy it. The next one is how to pay off down my student loans, right? Like once again, I came out $250,000 student debt. I really wish that they gave me some strategies and pay down your student loans, right? So what I did was I refinanced my loans from 7%, which was the federal interest rate, down to 3%. And I was not taught that, right? And the reason why I knew that was because I just heard it from other classmates, or like my parents kind of knew about it, so they told me about it. And I would then tell my other classmates, right? Like, hey, look, I just refinanced my loans from federal. I used First Republic Bank, and I lowered my rate from 7 to 3%. And I was like referring my friends left and right. So I was like, hey, like we can save 4% on interest, and that was huge, right? That's huge. Like by saving 4% interest, I can save more money to pay off my loans faster, and that's what I did, right? So I really wish that they taught me like, hey, you can refinance it. Here's some resources. Here's some lenders that you can potentially use and consider. But this is why it's important to lower interest rate, because over the lifetime, why would I pay 7% when I can pay 3% and take that 4% difference? I can use that to pay down my loans faster, use that to save up for a down payment on a house, or do whatever of it, right? Like I really wish they taught me strategies, and I really wish they taught me like how to automate it. Like for me, I automated my student loan payments, right? Like so my minimum payment was I think $2,000 a month or $3,000 a month, but I would automate it and make it $4,000 a month. So I wanted to pay down extra, right? Because I wanted to get it off my plate as soon as possible. Because back then, all I knew was debt was bad, right? This is before I owned any real estate. Like debt was bad, pay off all debt. So that was my goal. I automate every month. On the first every month, automate $4,000 payment to pay to my student loans. So I would forget about it, set it and forget it, right? It was automated, and then when the money was allocated to my student loans, I wouldn't spend the money, right? So it kept me very humble. It kept me living off a very, um, modest lifestyle. Right? I never lifestyle inflated, even to this day, right? Even though I'm a pharmacy director now, on 90 units of real estate, honestly, I haven't really inflated my lifestyle. I pretty much still live very similarly. I'm not super frugal, not super cheap, but I just know where to spend that gives me the most value, right? So let me give you an example. Like when I travel, I always try to pick, cheaper times. I know it's like usually cheaper to fly out like Friday night, um, or like maybe Thursday night. And for hotel, like I can stay in a nice 5-star luxury hotel for like, $300 a night, or I can stay in like a 2 or 3 star hotel that's in a great location, that's, clean and livable and decent, safe area, and it might be $100 a night, right? So I could take that $200 that I save in my hotel and spend that on like food, which is what I enjoy, or like going to see a tour or a site attraction, right? That gives me more value than just staying in a nice hotel, right? So, for some people, they might value the nicer hotels, but for me, it doesn't. So I just said, you know what, I'm going to save some money in the hotel, reallocate that money towards things that actually bring me value. So, that's just kind of the mindset that I have. And yeah, each person's different, right? So for me, I don't really gain much value from having really nice things. I fell into the trap as a guy, right? I got a BMW graduating pharmacy school. That was kind of my parents' gift to me. Was just getting it was a used BMW that was 3 years old. I still actually drive that BMW to this day. But at this point, it wouldn't make me any happier if let's say I trade up to get an Audi R8, which is my dream car, right? Like maybe one day I'll buy it when it makes sense, but honestly, if I buy it right now, it wouldn't bring me more value. But what would bring me more value is if I can increase my passive income, so I have the option to go to part time, right? The option to just work my job part time, or maybe take a sabbatical from my job for maybe 2 years, right? To me, that brings me more value than what I would getting an Audi R8, right? So you constantly reassess what gives you value, and it's always going to change, right? Like right now, I'm valuing time in a way, but maybe there's gonna be a phase where I actually value going to work, right? Like it's nice having consistent income coming in, so that my real estate can just focus on kind of self funding itself, self funding the renovations, and I don't have to live off the real estate money, right? I'm just living off my pharmacist salary. So, so yes, I really wish they taught me some basic strategies on how to pay down my student loans, how to automate extra payments, and how to create a plan and a budget, right? The next is I really wish they taught me how to interview better for jobs. So, man, this was tough for me. So for me, I just interviewed for a lot of jobs, right? Like I came out of pharmacy school, I came out in retail, so Walgreens, CVS, and I quickly realized I did not like it, right? So after that, I just said, okay, I want to apply for hospital jobs. And for hospital jobs, you typically need to do something called a pharmacy residency, which is 1 year or 2 years if you want to specialize. Just like doctors, pharmacists have residency too. I'll create a whole another video talking about pharmacy residencies and how I got a job about residency, but I basically didn't do a residency, right? So I just mass applied to every single hospital job across California, right? I didn't care where I was. I just said I just want to get a hospital job. Anyone that's willing to take me without any experience, without any residency, And if I can show them that I have a good attitude, I'm willing to learn, and I'm willing to communicate that clearly, and convince them to hire me, I would do that for 1 to 2 years, get that experience, and then come back to the Bay Area where I was from. Right. So that was my plan. So that's what I did. Like I remember I would wake up every day, every morning, go on Indeed.com and filter it by newest job first, and just start mass applying to all the jobs. Right. You know, obviously I would apply to like 100 jobs. Maybe 10 would actually reach out for an interview, and maybe out of the 10, maybe like one or two would send me an offer. Right. So that was just kind of the market I was in, and I had no experience. So that's what I expected. So every day I would wake up, apply. I apply to jobs in the popular markets like, the Bay Area, Los Angeles, Orange County. Obviously I'd rather be in those areas, in the bigger cities. But the reality was the kind of the smaller cities where not many people want to be are the ones that will give you the opportunity, right? Whether it's in Eureka, Yuba City, Apple Valley, Fresno, Bakersfield, kind of like Salinas. These areas are not as desirable. There's less competition, but they're willing to give me the opportunity to interview and to give me a job, right? And that's what I did. I was in a more remote area for the first like 2 years of my pharmacist career, got the experience, and after that I was able to move back to the Bay Area where I was from and get a job there once I had 2 years experience. Easier sell, right? So I just really wish that they, for me, I only got good at interviewing because I just did so much volume, right? Like I interviewed so many jobs throughout my whole career, right? Same thing when I became a pharmacy director. Like it's hard to become a pharmacy manager, pharmacy director without any experience unless you're promoted internally, right? That's probably the easiest way to become pharmacy management is you were a pharmacist there, the manager left, and then they just promote you in. Then the director leaves, you go from manager, then you go to director, right? For me, I just went straight from pharmacist to director in a different hospital altogether. But same thing, I just mass applied to a bunch of hospitals who were hiring pharmacy directors. I'll create a video about that as well, how I became a pharmacy director at 27. But it's just a numbers game, right? You just mass apply, you do a lot of interviews. Hey, it's nerve wracking, right? Like my upbringing was that I was never good about selling myself, right? My parents in the Asian American community, you're always taught to be very humble, don't brag about your achievements, and that you always can improve, right? So, like, no matter how good you are, you can always improve, right? So, even if you get like a 95% on a test, there's 5% that you miss, and that's the 5% that you can improve on, right? So it's a double-edged sword, but that was my upbringing, that you can, no matter how good you are, you can always improve. So because of that, I always had low self-esteem, but on top of that, I had a hard time talking about myself in a positive light. Like I just would talk about myself in a way that was just very matter of the fact, very vanilla. So it's kind of hard to sell yourself. Like how do you stand out if they have like 20, 30 applicants, right? So just by me doing it, I learned how to storytell. I learned how to share my experience in a more engaging way, that got them more engaged and left a more memorable impression. So I wish I was really taught that, like in pharmacy school. Like, how do you sell yourself? How do you tell stories about what you've done to make it very engaging? Like, you want to paint a picture of a problem and then share how you solve that problem to get to your end result and what you learned along the way. That's a lot more engaging of a story that the interviewer, they're very engaged, they're very lost in the story. They feel like they're going through it themselves, right? A lot of pharmacists struggle with that. That's why a lot of pharmacists, at this stage in my career, I'm interviewing a lot of pharmacists. They're terrible at interviewing, right? Like I interview like 10 applicants, and to be honest, all 10 say the same stuff. I can't remember any of them. Like no one stands out to me, right? So for me, I only learned not because I'm great and amazing, because I've done so many interviews myself and I interviewed so many people that I know what it takes. So I wish that they taught more about that. The last thing I wish pharmacy school taught me was the power of compounding, right? So compounding, how your knowledge compounds over time, right? If you're a pharmacist for 30 years and you're constantly learning, how does that knowledge compound, right? Power of compounding in terms of finances, right? If I start investing at 23 versus 33, in over a 30-year span, that's going to be huge, right? If your money doubles every 10 years, applying the rule of 72 and a 7% return on average, every 10 years, your money's going to double, right? So if I start at 23 versus 33, I have one more decade where my money can double. And that really starts to matter at the end of your life, right? So let's just say, I'm worth 5 million in my 30s, right? My 40s, assuming it doubles, that's 10 million. 50s is 20 million. 60s is 40 million. 70s is 80 million. 90s is 160 million, right? That's the power of compounding. That's the difference between somebody 80 million and 160 million is the difference between someone starting 10 years earlier doing the same exact thing, right? So I really wish they taught me, the power of compounding for me, and how powerful it is, right? It can definitely, you want to make time work for you. You want time to be in your favor, right? So, kind of a bonus thing that I just thought of about what I wish Pharmacy School taught me was actually more about how to compound IVs, or how to compound medications in the pharmacy. So a lot of things that we do in the pharmacy, a lot of people don't know, is we compound a lot of medications, right? A lot of antibiotics, a lot of life-saving medications. And in school they teach us about it conceptually, but when you're actually doing it and the laws associated with it, they don't really teach us it that much. But as pharmacists, we have to kind of self-educate ourselves. When I wish the school would really give us a stronger foundation, a stronger base, right? And especially now, the board of pharmacy, which regulates us pharmacists and holds us accountable, like they're really cracking down on how to compound medications, but we weren't really trained much in school. So it really requires us to self-educate ourselves. So the five things that I kind of hit on, or the six things I hit on about what I wish pharmacy school taught us in summary, or what I wish they taught me, was how to manage my money, number one. Number two is how to buy real estate. Number three is how to pay down my student loans. Number four is how to interview better for jobs. Number five is the power of compounding. And the bonus one, number six, was learning more about how to compound medications. So that's what I wish they taught me. But what I love about pharmacy school and what it taught me, and I apply that to all facets of my life, is to be a lifelong learner. Pharmacy school preaches you to be a lifelong learner, right? You're always constantly learning. Medicine is always changing. There's always new medications coming that are being developed, right? So you constantly have to stay fresh and always be learning. So I apply that to all facets of my life, right? I applied it to personal finance. I'm applying it to real estate. I'm applying it to social media. So that skill set translates to everything, and it helps you become successful, right? So while I do bash those five things that they can improve on, it did help me become a lifelong learner, which I am constantly applying, right? Unfortunately, some pharmacists, they did not take that mantra, that philosophy with them, and they haven't improved themselves, right? And it's showing now, because we've been out of school 10 years, and you can start to see where the gaps are amongst yourself and your classmates. So really appreciative that it taught me to be a lifelong learner, and I'm definitely using it and applying it on a day-to-day basis, right? So overall, hope you found value from this video. I hope when you go to pharmacy school, um, just know that they don't really teach this, but you can always take it in your own hands and self-educate yourself. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next video. Thank you so much.